Good morning, Wilshire. My name is Greg Garrett, and on behalf of the staff and congregation of Wilshire Baptist Church, I offer you a greeting on this seventh Sunday of Easter. Whether you are here with us in person or watching online now or later, I also, as a lifelong educator, offer my congratulations to our high school and college graduates for your lives and for your achievements. Many congratulations to you all. I am, as I think you remember, Wilshire's Episcopalian in residence. Although I am here today in my Baptist suit and tie, it is such a joy to be back among you to celebrate your 75th anniversary. Timothy, wherever you are this morning, thank you for that invitation. For almost a decade now, this congregation has shaped and encouraged my work on race and justice, on loving all of God's children, and please know that I will come back home whenever you ask me. I bring you greetings from your siblings in Christ at the historically Black St. James Episcopal Church in East Austin, from the American Cathedral of the Holy Trinity in Paris, and from Baylor University, where I have just completed my 36th year of teaching and serve as the Carol McDaniel Hanks Professor of Literature and Culture. I don't know if you heard, but there was some small excitement at Baylor recently. And I'm not speaking here about Willie Nelson finally playing on campus. But there was something that John Lewis of blessed memory might have called good trouble. Turning Point USA, the deeply problematic organization founded by Charlie Kirk after Kenneth Starr convinced him not to attend Baylor, brought their national tour to our campus last month. Baylor students, faculty, and alumni programmed an alternative event, All Our Neighbors, in response to the truly hateful presence of the speakers that Turning Point had invited. The All Our Neighbors rally was covered by local, state, national, and international media. But what stands out most to me as I reflect on it now is that it was historic for reasons that should not be reasons. After decades of debate about how Baylor officially considers its LGBTQ students, faculty, and staff, after a year and a half of genuine concern about how the university might be punished by the current administration for standing up for those Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew calls the least of these, Baylor permitted a remarkable group of students of many faiths and no faith, from a number of different racial, sexual, and other identities, to speak at an event that also featured two prominent Christian LGBTQ activists, a pastor who was present in Minneapolis when Renee Good was murdered, and the lone Baylor faculty member named to the Turning Point USA Professor Blacklist. As many of you know, I am that professor. And I say this not to brag. Although people keep congratulating me. As I was saying to the Sunday school classes earlier, personally, it is extremely difficult to be publicly singled out for such hate and revilement. But I want to thank so many of you here at Wilshire for standing alongside of me, for expressing your love and care, and for recognizing that when the empire tries to silence people for speaking their conscience, other people of conscience have to stand alongside them. And I want to say that when I give thanks for this All Our Neighbors event at Baylor, and I do, it has reminded me of the hard, brave, and loving work that this community went through years ago in deciding to become an open and affirming church, to proclaim in the face of hatred and revilement, and in the face of rejection by other Texas Baptists, that all are neighbors. Part of my making this connection is that at the All Our Neighbors event At Baylor, I had the joy of seeing Mark Wingfield and hugging his neck. Part of it was being in contact with George Mason. My wife Jeannie and I were so pleased to have table fellowship with him and Kim last night. But mostly it was that, as I have said, this community has been one of my most persistent partners in loving and standing up for all of God's children. Part of it is also this: we remain in Easter when we lean hardest into the belief that death is not the end and that new life is always possible. Last year, as some of you know, Baylor, under intense pressure from conservative Baptists, returned a grant from our beloved friends, the Baugh Foundation, that was intended to study how women and LGBTQ folks are treated in congregations. It was painful to my allies in the School of Social Work, to me, to many here, who believed that Baylor had gotten far enough past this that we would not give such credence to those who hate and those who fear. At the time, it felt like death. And in some ways it was. Death certainly to the School of Social Work's grant and the essential research it was funding. Death to the programming, collaboration, and research I was hoping to continue with the help of the foundation. Death to a relationship with a faithful Baptist family who had shared their resources with Baylor for many years. That's the thing about Easter. Up from the grave he arose, the old song goes. What the world counts dead and defeated cannot know defeat, because what powers our faith and practice is the resurrection of Jesus the Christ. So, in the midst of death, we are in life. Although it was the last thing they wanted, Turning Point USA gave Baylor a gift that shaved years of argument and anguish off the calendar, that reinforced the remembrance that all of God's children deserve love, respect, and recognition. It was not the end of the conversation, to be sure. Conservative Texas Baptists are still speaking very loudly. But it did move the conversation forward from a place where nothing further seemed possible. Back during the pandemic, I preached an Easter season sermon to the congregation of the American Cathedral from my living room. Many thanks to Jeannie, my camera woman, engineer, and producer. And of course, since it was Easter, all of our readings came from the Gospel of John. And what I told them was this: I love the Gospel of John. Mark has the frenetic energy of an action picture. Luke, the great quirky stories of an indie film. But John dives deep into the human heart and the human soul. It's the most artfully written gospel as well as the most theologically sophisticated. And in the stories it has been telling us since Easter, we have seen this amazing collision of human brokenness and divine grace. Every gospel has a different emphasis, but the great commandment of the Gospel of John is so simple: love. Love each other as I have loved you. There is no greater love than to give your life for your neighbor. And as the author of John writes, I have written this gospel so that you may believe. But believe in what? Today's gospel immerses us in Christ's prayer for his disciples. For all of us who believe it, tells us we belong to Jesus and to God. It tells us that Jesus has been glorified in those who believe in him. It asks, Holy Father, protect them, that God reached down to these disciples who loved Jesus. And it tells us that Jesus is returning to the Father. But those disciples and we who follow remain in the world. A couple of thoughts. I am reminded in these challenging days of the great teaching of the Christian mystic St. Teresa of Avila. Christ has no body now but ours. No hands, no feet on earth but ours. Ours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Ours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Ours are the hand with which he blesses all the world. Ours are the hands, ours are the feet, ours are the eyes. We are his body. Christ has no body now, but ours. For 75 years so far, Wilshire Baptist Church has been the face and hands and voice of Christ in this community and beyond it. Not just your clergy, but your members. You have stood up for the least of these, loved your neighbors, loved sacrificially. You have reached out to victims of violence and disease, have offered love to members of the LGBTQ community. And I know from our own work together, you have continued to call people to love across racial divides, even as America becomes more racially divided. For all of that, I give thanks. And I celebrate you. But I also turn my attention to Jesus' remarkable ask of the Father. Protect these, my disciples, so that they may be one as we are one. Because, beloved, if we are talking about physical protection, that prayer was a spectacular failure. Andrew and Philip were crucified like their master. Peter, who refused to be executed like Jesus, was crucified upside down. James, son of Zebedee, was beheaded. James, son of Alphaeus, was stoned or clubbed to death. Matthew was stabbed. Bartholomew flayed alive and beheaded. Simon the Zealot sawed in half. His teaching partner, Judas Thaddeus, killed by bludgeon or axe or spear. Thomas the Doubter was martyred in India, far, far away from the land he had walked with Jesus. Tradition tells us that only John, who we think of as the beloved disciple, lived to old age. At the All Our Neighbors event, the Reverend Susie Hayward told us that in Minneapolis, neighbors loved neighbors as Jesus calls us all to do, even though that sometimes prompted danger to them. And so I think our epistle reading, our first reading from 1 Peter today, has some things to offer us when we think about protection. Because if we truly belong to Jesus and to the Father, then it means something very different from our physical safety. As we seek to believe that all are neighbors, to believe that all are our neighbors, it's important to hear and know and stand with them in all the world who are undergoing suffering. And it is important to know that after we ourselves have suffered, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, support, strengthen, and establish you. In my forthcoming book on racism in America, White Lies, which some of you were kind enough to listen to me talk about this morning, in that book I mention a woman in Louisiana who wanted to know when this work of reconciliation to which we are called would be through. It's not exactly how she put it. I think she said, when will it be enough? I have taken this question as my teaching about when our suffering, our efforts, our love for all our neighbors will be enough. As gently as I could, I told that woman in Louisiana that we would be done when, as the prophet Amos says, justice rolls down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. And this morning I stand on that conclusion. Happy anniversary, Wilshire. I am grateful for your history and for your future, because I know who you are, and I know that you will continue to live into this resurrection work, that you will love hard. Let justice roll like waters. And as John Lewis of blessed memory said, start good trouble. May it be so.